Słuchajcie, no człowiek, który zrobił Another World przede wszystkim. To jest pierwsza gra, którą widziałem na informatyce, jak byłem mały. Oczarowała mnie i w programie Joystick, zresztą w TVP. Dawno, dawno temu. Éric Chahi jest gościem Radosława Nałęcza i Tadeusza Zielińskiego programu Faux. Brawa.
Hey. Please come. This is your fan base.
Witam.
Eric, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah,
Take a seat.
It's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you.
Okay, we'll start as we usually do in our show. How did you start in the industry? That's a very simple question. We ask it to every single person we are interviewing. So, how it started?
I started at a time where it was not really an industry, but it was a time of, in France where there were the first computer like Auric 1. It was in 1983, and I just wanted to create game, and I started to create game on this computer as an amateur, and I have the chance that the importator of the Auric 1 in France was interested to publish some games, so that's the way I started. I created my first game in basic language, and it was a very, very simplistic game with a frog, etc. And so that was my first step as a professional.
You made money on it?
Yeah, a lot of money. Indeed, they asked me, "Do you want some money or some hardware?" I say, "Oh, some hardware. We can offer you this printer and this gamepad." Yeah, good. But what was the price of my first game? Yeah.
And then Another World came. Okay, what was the process when you came up with an idea for the game, and then when you were developing it, and after that we are going to ask you about the reception, when you realized that was a hit?
The creative process.
Yeah, the creative process for how did you came up with an idea? It was made by one person, like you know, coming up with an idea, realizing it.
Okay. The thing is that game, my creative process evolved over time. So at the very beginning, I wanted to create a game like, let's say, this adventure game that I like, or this arcade game. So it was more like copying something and adding some cool new idea. And the more and more I evolve in my career, it was more about having a key, strong idea from the beginning. And for example, for Another World, it was using the use of a polygon to create a cinematography.
So it was an art-driven game more than it was art-driven game more than a gameplay-driven game. From your perspective, what was more important, art side or the gameplay side?
It was to create a game. A game is a way to communicate something to player. So I was thinking of game not as an imitation of something else, but really as a game. But wanted to, for example, for Another World, to mix it with a cinematographic sense, and that was before the story, before anything. That was the first thing I wanted to do. And often I often start with a feeling or some technical idea. And over time, I wrote idea in some notebook, and I can take this idea and some idea collide together to create something interesting sometimes. And the creative, so this is the starting point. But yeah, the key things is to do, to create a game progressively and not trying to think of everything since the beginning. More like an improvisation.
Evolution of an idea than just...
The most extreme way where I did it was Another World, because I create each level one after each other without knowing what will happen.
So a bit like writing a book, but without a script. Just, you know,
yeah, like
one episode after another, just coming up with an idea on the go.
Yes, like on theater, when some actors have an improvisation, there is a thematic, and then they just build things. But the most important thing is to keep what has been done and to build on the top of it. An actor that say, okay, that propose something during his playing, the other actors in an improvisation process will not change, it will incorporate it. So that's how I've created Another World, and I also applied this process for Paper Beast recently. For Art of Darkness, that was more, everything was more designed during the first years about the scenario, and even the level design, a lot of level design has been done on paper for Art of Darkness, which was not the case for Another World, much less.
When did you realize that Another World is a hit? Like when did you realize that you created a like, you know, blockbuster? Yeah, all those following that you have right now.
Well, when it happens, before I didn't know, but maybe your question was when do I realize it could become a hit, or it is how it is a special, or because but for me it was very special, but I do not know. I know that it was very different and unique, but it's very difficult to say if it will please to other people.
But you had that moment when you realized, wow, this is a hit already. It happened.
Yeah,
and it kinda, you know,
when I've started to meet some media just a few months before the release of the game in 1991. Yes, I saw the reaction of people, and I said, okay, something is happening.
Something is happening.
So do you remember the first person whom you show this game, your game, Another World, who played first?
I showed this game to some friends, so but before it was finished. But for the professional people, I show it to a Delphine developer like Paul Cuisset, and because of Future Wars, I work with Paul, so I share some my current development, and he was impressed by the introduction when I show it to him and all the developers at Delphine. But I show it to some other company because I wanted maybe I was looking for another publisher. Like I go to Virgin, but they wanted to change the game. They say, okay, that was Virgin in France. Say, okay, hey, it's good, but maybe it should be a point and click. Okay, so no.
Another word like as a point and click game.
Yes, because it was really the trend of the time, and yes, the game was hard, and that's the reason why they.
Okay, so have you any plan B if another word, any plan B if another word will be flop or something?
Yeah, probably integrate a company, because I was an indie. I was working at home, so maybe I would work with Delphine on their new game as a graphic artist, something maybe.
Okay, so I've heard that life creates the best scripts, and is the same with games. For example, this is the method for creating games, making games.
Well, life has influence. It's not the only influence. For another world, many influence from other artists or comics artists, and it's true that life gives some revelation sometimes. And for another world, I had a revelation, nothing to see with the universe, but the understanding of the rhythm and just, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 years before starting another world, I was in vacation and walking in the mountain and with some friends, and we got a big storm, and we were totally wet, and we spent the night in a small, not know what the name, it's small hut in the wild, and we walk with our very heavy bag, and we reached the small city, and there were an hotel, and we decided to go one night to this hotel, and that was the best 1-star hotel that looks like a 4-star hotel for me at that time, because of what I have living just before. And it makes me realize how the context can create emphasis on things, and it has an impact of my future creation and on another world, how to surprise, how to play with the rhythm, because the contrast between your experience and your life experience is in real or inside a game is a key. So the rhythm of everything in another world, I had this experience in mind.
Okay, so is there any chance for Another World 2, a sequel?
The killing question.
Because we saw trailer Flashback 2. Yes, there will be sequel. So your opinion about
there is no plan. Good try.
I have another question. Which one of your games is your favorite? Of your games, not of all the games. Which one of your games is your favorite?
Only one.
Yes. Let's make it harder. Only one.
Yeah, it's difficult because
I know. All are your children. You love them all as
maybe. Another World and Paper Beast.
And Paper Beast. Okay, so we are moving into more modern times. I remember when I first saw From Dust, and I was informed, or I read, I can't remember, that it's your game. And I was completely shocked. Because, playing Another World and playing Heart of Darkness, like, how come this guy came up with that idea? How did you came up with that idea, and why did you create From Dust? And that there will be a follow-up question for Paper Beast as well.
Yeah. And From Dust, I'm bouncing on the previous question of the influence of real life, and clearly From Dust has been inspired by real life.
Was it playing with the stones and water?
Yeah,
I remember that was.
Yeah, because after Darkness, I take a step back, and I traveled in desert and see active volcanoes, and this confrontation and this immersion in a geological place that are moving or being eroded has a deep impact on me. And when I saw Lava Flow, I saw also gameplay with it. So it was a chance to bring some interesting gameplay around the thematic of erosion and a world always in motion.
So it was more playing with, water, like elements.
Yeah, but
more playing with the elements than being the God game, because it was technically a God game. It was known as a God game.
Yes, it's half God game because the nature is always above you, but regarding the tribe, you're a kind of God. So yeah.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that. Looking at From Dust, which by the way is my favorite game of yours, and I have a huge problem. I didn't play Paper Beasts yet, but I watched enough to have this question in my mind. If you were a painter, what would be your genre? What would be your favorite genre? In what genre you would be painting? Genre. Surrealism, expressionism, especially after those two games, because
I think
it made me think about Beksinski. It made me think about
surrealism.
Surrealism.
Yeah,
You would be a surrealist painter.
Surrealism, and yes, kind of, yeah.
Because when I'm looking at your recent games, which are From Dust and Paper Beasts,
or abstract painter like a painter like Zhao Wuki, painting with motion, a lot of motion. I love when there is a motion in painting.
Because that's another thing that I noticed. You have a knack for using elements, not only elements, but playing with physics. Why? Could you elaborate on that?
Because it's not carved in stone. Because when you play with physics, there is surprise. There are surprises. You don't know precisely what will happen, and you have something very plastic, fluid, and unpredictable. Physics is really related to. I think that to speak about nature, physics is really good, because nature is always adaptative. Nature adapts and is in motion, and that's why I love to play with physics.
It's okay. Paper Beast is also VR game. So what do you like in this technology, VR technology?
Why?
Why and why? Why VR?
There's one thing that VR have that is not possible without VR is the immersion into a space, the feeling of the size of things. And this place, you can see this structure is really interesting, and here you can have this feeling in VR, but if this place on a flat screen, you will not have this feeling. And I wanted to experiment with that, and and be able to interact with directly into the world in terms of immersion. It's very different.
So VR is still an experiment, or it's the future of gaming?
It's an experiment. Yeah.
Technical experiment.
I mean, VR is a way to express things. It's not a finality, technical finality. Maybe my next game will be a flat screen pixel art game. I don't know. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be.
Okay, so we've got also AR technology or mobile games very popular. So what's is the future of gaming in your opinion?
I don't know. Already, I don't know because there is always this this run to technology, and but today the diversity of game is really broad. So I don't have a very precise vision of future of gaming.
Is it more bright or dark?
Oh, for me it's more bright. Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about the future, so what is your near future plan? What you working on now after Paper Beast?
Yes, I'm in a conception stage. I'm aggregating ID, so it's not sharp enough to start a game with a team, but it's like you know, you take a camera and it's blur, and you turn the ring. So I'm turning the ring now to know
To see the
to
see the clear.
Because the most important thing is that I strongly believe in the game, in the universe of the game that I'm creating. I must not be half confident. I must fully confident. Yeah.
What is the most important thing for you in video games? Is it, I don't know, exploration? Is it experience? Is it just fun, you know, entertainment? Which part of it is most appealing to you?
It's the living experience that the player will have as a slice of life. And after that, it could be anything. But I love the discovery of new world. Clearly, yeah.
This is your favorite. So you're the explorer on the scale. You are the explorator one. Do you still feel relevant in modern times? Because you're an artist. You're not like, you know, the game developers. We had a discussion before we started to talk with you. We had a discussion about the market, about working on video games, not creating them, but treating them as a job. I perceive you, I don't know if that's correct, but I perceive you more as an artist than a game maker, if you will. And do you think that it's still relevant in modern times? Do you think that the games maybe are turning into a direction in which they are a product more than an experience?
Currently, they are both. Some games are more. I mean, we can. It depends. I mean, a game that is really have an artistic in the sense of a game that communicates a strong vision or view on something, or well, it can be a product because from marketing, a marketing team will take it and will try to sell it as a product. So it's not. There is no contradiction. Well, there is a contradiction when it is the marketing that decide the content, and where the expressivity of a game, where the expressivity of a game is damaged by some too strong marketing. I'm not saying that marketing opinion are bad or not useful, but I'm just saying sometimes it could be.
They shouldn't be as strong.
Yeah, it should be a tool. So it's important. It could be important as a game designer to know your public and yeah.
So again, the question that I started with, do you still feel relevant in modern times as a game creator, as an artist, game creator? Relevant.
You mean
to the people? Like, do you still feel like, for us here, you're an absolute star? It's not, you know, living legend. Like we basically were raised on your games, multiple, and they kind of pushed us on the way. Do you still feel after those 35 years, I think, 35 years in the industry, do you still feel that you are a person who's making games make something relevant to the people? Do you feel that maybe you know kind of strayed away from the general public?
Yeah. You mean
if what you're doing is still appealing to the general public? So
yes, it is, but it depends how many people you. I know that I'm not touching a super broad range of people. Paper Beast didn't touch a super broad range of gamer, but people that were touched were really touched, and that's the most important, because it came from the heart, and people are receptive with. Are receptive, simply. Yes.
I don't have to ask you if you think that video games are a form of art. Like, that's an obvious answer, I think. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So, okay, we are in Poland, so local question. Do you know any Polish creators, or did you play Polish games?
I played Frostpunk. I played Darkwood, and I've started this War of Mine last week. And but yeah, that's probably maybe I play some game but I don't know. Yeah.
So you don't have any specific opinion about Polish industry or Polish game dev?
No. When I play a game, I'm not looking where it's done generally.
Okay, so game haven't nationality. Yes, it's universal language for you.
Yes, for me. Yes, for me there are different creators and with different personalities, and that's it.
Okay, so I would like to ask you: is there, in your career, there was a time when you fed up with games, some kind of crisis?
Yeah,
maybe after Heart of Darkness, because Heart of Darkness had long process of production and it was development hell, maybe for you.
Heart of Darkness was an exhausting experience. Creating a game during 6 years is very long, and I create games, but I'm not considering me only as a game designer. I'm more a creator and an author. So at the time I wanted, in the 90s, I wanted to become an illustrator and living a video game, but finally I've decided to create another world. and so so when I decided to have a step back in the early 2000s, I was not my way of working was not matching the evolution of the industry, where the studio get bigger and bigger, and there were big team, because I love to work with a small team, and so in maybe 2004, 2005, the indie scene came back, and it was more like, when I created my first game at the beginning. And so the context of creation is important for me too.
What was hard in this process in developing Heart of Darkness? What was the hardest part?
There are several parts that were complicated. The evolution of technology, we have to follow the evolution of technology, and because the idea was to create a game that used the CD-ROM, but it was not. When you arrive at the beginning of the technology, you see the limitation as a wall. And we have to develop a lot of tools to compress the picture. And at the beginning of the development, we decided to switch to computer graphics. And that was really new. So we have to learn a lot of things. And the production was, I think, the management of the production was a difficult point, because how to manage from day to day the task and make sure you can deliver something on time, and how many people, how many developers the project really needs. And we have some difficulties to evaluate this, especially on the programming side. So yeah, it took a really long time. And it's only in 1996 that we started to see the end of the tunnel. And but that was the time where Virgin dropped the game, because so the game was almost finished. And yeah, and 1996 we have to look for a new publisher. Unfortunately, we found one in France. It saved the game. Yeah.
Okay, so you experienced crunch in this situation.
Yeah.
Can we call
Art of Darkness,
that
Another World,
in this
and
way?
Art of Darkness. Yes, a lot of crunch time. I don't like crunch, but sometimes I can do differently. But I wish to don't have a crunch. Crunch is not good for the health and the motivation, and yeah.
So can games be made without crunch?
Yes, I think yeah.
How?
Yeah, but I don't have a. Well, you need to have a good production follow-up of and be don't want too much. No.
So know where the end is, not to go after, like, beyond the border. Just squeezing more and more and more in your game.
But sometimes it's difficult, because sometimes there are technical barrier you must go over to make the game released. And for example, for Paper-Beast, having a VR game being released on PS4 with a lot of physics was just absolutely crazy thing to optimize. So yeah.
So is it possible to make a game completely without, when you have the release date?
I think it is. I think it is possible. I think it's important, and for me to say, okay, I don't want to have crunch in this project, and do the maximum to don't have a crunch. And is it possible? Of course, I'm sure it is possible, because some studios don't have crunch, So the recipe will not come from me, but from other guys. So.
Well, hopefully. Like, I think that you have to have a lot of money to be able not to crunch, or to have a very, very publisher with a lot of confidence in you, so that he will allow you to do something like that. In your opinion, what is the greatest danger for game developers and for game development and for gaming as an industry in coming years? Is it microtransactions? Is it going into, I don't know, like crazy ideas, like just going into the battle royale games, or just, you know, that genre dominating the whole industry?
Something that could kill a project.
Something that could basically damage gaming as an industry more than just one project. You know, bad practices that we are having in the industry.
Well, I have a bad view of advertising in game, or
NFTs and, you know, all the blockchain mambo jumbo.
Well, NFTs. Well, when it is the money that drives first the content, for me it's bad. And NFT, it's more oriented to speculation right now. But I think the concept is interesting, but there is side effect that tend to be diminished now, like the ecological effect. Well, so I'm looking at this from
the distance.
From a distance, yes.
Okay, so on the other hand, what's the biggest hope for our industry right now? What do you think that we can achieve as an industry?
Oh.
It's a big question, I know.
Yes. I'm not sure I can answer this question. I don't know. The best thing is to keep the diversity in the game, the gaming, the different thematic, and yeah.
Not to go into one direction, just, you know, battle royales or just.
Yes, sure. We have big kind of game. I know kind of battle royale and cool game like Minecraft that take a lot of time to many gamer, and I really love Minecraft, but yeah, I would like a more equilibrium
between gamey games and the artsy games.
Not artsy game, between the diversity of game, but well, we'll see. And yeah, diversity first.
That's a good answer. And do you think that you will be making games in, well, 5 years, no problem, but in 10 years, 15 years, you'll still be here?
I hope so.
No, that's a serious question. Like, there are people who are, you know, burned out and they want to leave the industry. You don't feel burned out at all?
No, there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the future of gaming, and because the way there's so many games that are released every day, so just how to stand up from all
the crowd.
Yes. I think that's the most difficult point today.
To stand out.
Yeah.
We said that for us you are a living legend, a god, a veteran, but, also an icon. But do you have any advice for creators how to be successful?
It's difficult to give an advice to people that you don't know. But
the first
Yeah.
thought.
Well, the big risk is when creating a game is that if a game takes much more time than it was planned initially, it can end up or being too costly or just being killed because you can't finish it. So the first thing is, as a creator, is to know your abilities, what you can do as an individual or as a team, and use what you know to do, to create a game at the scale of what you're able to do. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Because today you can create game very simple, like Baba Is You is very 2D, very few colors, and technically it's not complicated, but the game is great. So just be humble about the content, and it's easy to get trapped to want more, and I get trapped myself. Sometimes I should not go. I want to push the boundary, but sometimes it can complicate things. So. Yeah, know your limits, and if you want to push your limits, do it progressively, not too far straight.
And independence, maybe it's most important value for you as a creator, because you are indie, still indie.
Yes, but for it's very personal, because it's possible to have a lot of pleasure to create a game in a companies. And so it's really, there is no advice, no rule, no regarding this. Yes.
So thank you very much. That was our part, and now it's time for you.
Thank you.
Maybe you have any questions to our guests?
Yes, please.
There you go. First was the guy in the middle.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you in person. I know a few years ago you were also here, but kind of via video.
Yes.
So nice that you came. I'll have two questions. It will be around about Another World.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for that, but that's the game that kind of stuck in my memory and probably in many people here. I still remember, the scenes where 4 or 5 kids were just sharing one computer in those times, and that was a kind of breakthrough game, and we were all just sitting and cheering for each other to get out of that pool of water, not get stung by the worms that you prepared for us at the beginning of the game. So thank you for this memory and the worms.
Thank you.
And my questions are, first one, because it was like a very original game. And you mentioned about those advices you're getting about this, like maybe do it a point and clicking game and so on. Was it still somewhere at the end of the creation of the game that you did kind of get influenced by someone and you changed something? Or was it still, did you go exactly through with the original idea that you had, and you really tried to keep it like very original, even with the technicalities, the polygons and so on, that you didn't look at the other games or other advices that you got? And my second question is, there was a 50th anniversary of Another World, and then also 20th anniversary, so like 2 releases. Could you say a bit more about what was the drive of releasing those, and will there be a 3rd version? Thank you.
Okay. Well, no, I will answer to the first question. When I created Another World, I was very isolated. So being so focused on the creation and working really maybe 10 hours a day and So I did not play over game that much. I think influence during the development, influence didn't came from a game, but I think I read a book named Hyperion from Dan Simmons, and you could say, but wow, what is the connection between both? But you know, you have some picture, and in the book there is some kind of old church with dark stone, and so it influenced me to bring this kind of mosaic into another world. So just one thing that I have in mind, but clearly appeared during the development. I have a strong influence on another world, but it was not during the development. That was before. That was Karateka, and I know that Jordan is here, and maybe I don't know if he's attending now, but you will see him later. And it is one of the first games that has a very cinematographic feeling. So yeah, this game has an influence. But before. And regarding the two versions, the 15th anniversary and the 20th anniversary, it was to make it more convenient to play the game on new platform, and also create a high resolution version of the game. And bringing some behind the scene element. So the process of creating this version, it's funny because I retouch some part of the gameplay, but just subtle things, to make it more fluent and a little bit less difficult and frustrating in some point. And I did it with an Amiga emulator. So I continue to code with an Amiga in the 2000. Okay, I hope it answers to your question. No, I don't think so.
Why two versions?
Good question. Well, there was an update. Indeed, first the game was released on PC, and when it was released later on console, because it was several years later, it was better to call it 20th anniversary. And I retouched all the background to the remastered background. So, yeah, that's the reason.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
I've seen yesterday a photo that Jordan posted on Twitter that you've been with him in the Apple Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a question. If you are surrounded by those old computers, do you feel a sudden urge to do something cool for them again? To program something on retro computers or something like that? Or is it a part of the history for you already?
Well, if I have, if the only computer on Earth were Apple II, I would code on Apple II.
Nice.
But I'm saying this because coding and creating on computer is really cool. To have something really moving, interacting on the screen. So let's say, okay, for whatever reason, there is no more PlayStation, no more PCs, and only the retro survive. I will code on the retro for sure. If I have choice, well, you can create a retro game on today's PC if you decide to limit to. It's a part of it would be a part of the improvisation process. Okay, I want to color black and white and just 1-bit audio sample.
Hello, Eric. I won't be original because the question will be about the Another World. Was there any cut content from the game, some ideas, locations that didn't make it to the final game? Thanks.
Small part, yes. When the player after the jail, the player don't have any energy. And there is a place where the player reload his energy. Initially, I plan to have a cutscene and having Lester pointing his gun to the kind of blue light moving. And the plan was to have a cutscene with the camera behind Lester and the gun go inside this blue light and coming back to the hand of Lester. I did it and it doesn't work, so I decided to not include it and just having Lester being in levitation with all the lightning around it, and it worked really well. It was fun to have the hair going in any direction, like in a science museum with electricity. Static electricity. Yeah.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
This is a very special edition of Pixel Heaven because we have two legends that we were raised on. So thank you again. Thank you. And now I think we'll just. We need to take a photo.
Yeah. Okay. I will be downstairs because I know that many people wanted some. More question or dedication, and so. But I will be there for only 1 hour. And after I will have to leave to take the plane, and so yeah, thanks. Thank you.
We need a photo for our
Bardzo dziękujemy.